Hey guys, Damien here. As you can see, I wear my sunglasses at night. All right, so I'm trying to do this so I can have some decent lighting. Hopefully, it works in this video. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you some advances in the story of my quest you guys have been following because I think you guys are lacking some of the emphasis on how big and bad and bold and important the JDL, the Jewish Defense League, were and are. So, for example, the Black Panthers were a terrorist group that initially formed in 1966, and they were only a terrorist group for like not even a decade. Okay, so not even 10 years. Black Panthers, and at most there were like 5,000 members of the Black Panthers. I think at most. Currently, KKK, they're not. They haven't been a terrorist group organization in several decades. They are fractioned out. But the JDL, okay, the JDL has been a longer terrorist organization, way longer than the Black Panthers were. They are still an active terrorist organization. They just had an arrest by the FBI a couple weeks ago, some of the 10 Molotov cocktails. Nobody talks about these guys, but they're for real. And I'm talking about former JDL members in this video, but they're still relevant today for a lot of reasons. But guys, just so you understand, when you guys think of gangsters and hardcore people, you may think of like Tupac or Eazy-E, back in the day. But let me tell you something about Tupac and Eazy-E and the JDL. You can back me on this. Again, this is going to be a future story. But guys, get your heads out of your butts. Your boy Damien here is telling you things the media doesn't talk about. And none of these stories are making headlines, but they should all make headlines. But they don't. But they all intertwine, and they all tell a story that is purposely being hidden. And I can connect all the dots. But just so you guys know, Tupac and Eazy-E had to contact the FBI for death threats and extortion from the JDL. You never heard that story before, have you? But guess what? Does that mean it's not true? I unintentionally stumbled upon that story, and that's one of the smallest stories, guys. That story is peanuts compared to these other stories. For example, today's story, and by the way, my friends on Facebook, I'm telling you this stuff in advance because with today's story, I'm going to include some pictures that have screenshots of where I get these facts from, and some of these pictures also show that Tupac and Eazy-E stuff, how they were being monitored by the FBI for JDL connections, and that's how some of these wiring recordings from the FBI came into contact with today's story. So today's story is about the third suspect of Alex Odeh. Okay, his name, Andy Green, but AKA also known as Baruch Ben-Yosef, and that's how I'm going to refer to him throughout the rest of this video as Baruch Ben-Yosef, but in America, he was Andy Green. He was born in America in Brooklyn, New York. He went to high school in the Bronx. And I know this might sound boring, but you guys need to understand I'm talking about him for a reason. And if you could just subliminally take this information in the future, you'll be like, oh my gosh, a story's starting to come together now, okay? But all this stuff tells a story, and I'll try to point it out when I can. But if you don't understand this stuff, don't worry. I still didn't understand any of this stuff when I was this early on into my journey, okay? But I know it all makes sense to me now. But for you guys, if it doesn't make sense, don't worry. Eventually, it will. So back to Baruch Ben-Yosef, member of the JDL and the Kach movement, Kach terrorist group. He after high school, he went to the Bronx, and then he moved to Israel, and he's at a place called Kiryat Arba. It's near Hebron. It's a settlement in West Bank, and Israel denies any extradition request for Andy Green, aka Baruch Ben-Yosef. And even Benjamin Netanyahu is on record as saying, well, I'm not familiar with an extradition request concerning the murder of Alex Odeh, but I'm sure if those were brought before me, I would look into them. He also served in the IDL. And this is, of course, Baruch Ben-Yosef I'm still talking about. And also, I learned about this, guys. Meir Kahane, the only man in history to create a domestic and foreign terrorist organization, Baruch Ben-Yosef was his right-hand man. Okay, so you guys need to understand. I'm talking about a hardcore guy who is still alive. He still is an active fugitive by the FBI. He's wanted for $1 million. I know where he's at, and he still has the same terrorist ideologies that he had back then. He still has them now, guys. He was Meir Kahane's right-hand man, and him and Meir Kahane, a long time ago, they tried to blow up the Dome of the Rock. You can look into this. That's a fact. And also, well, I'll get into that also in just a second. But he also, like Keith Fuchs, the second suspect in the Alex Odeh case, He also used to beat up other Jewish people for not divorcing their wives. So again, these are people who are also who Jewish people do not like. Okay, not it's not like you guys should hate all Jews. There's Jews who don't like these people either. Okay. Also, he was last seen. This is what you guys need to understand. He was last seen in 2024 protesting and blocking humanitarian aid in Gaza. Okay? He was last seen, a fugitive last seen blocking humanitarian aid. Our FBI does nothing. We know where he's at there, does nothing. In the meantime, real time right now, Americans, innocent Americans, are illegally detained by Israel because all these guys were trying to do was provide humanitarian aid because Israel is starving people, and Israel could not even wait for them to get close. Israel went over international waters, broke international law, and arrested and detained American civilians, your citizens, illegally. No one talks about that. But let's talk about one of the guys who killed an American and is living free with $1 million bounty that our freaking FBI won't even submit an extradition request. But don't worry, guys. I sent 2 emails today to our Department of Justice in case you want to learn some stuff like I learned today. Who's responsible for creating an extradite request? The reason why I look into that is because I look into this other shit about freaking criminals that are being hidden from us. It's bullshit. But anyways, I also sent one on behalf of Keith Israel Fuchs. Not on behalf of him, on behalf of Alex Odeh, but I sent an extradition request to the Department of Justice today as well before I made this video. Just so you guys know, I am about action, not just about making videos. So, also, this guy, and I'm going to make another video on this guy because his shit goes deep. His ideologies in terms of what he's trying to do in Israel, in particular with important churches like Christian churches, you guys need to understand this because what Trump is doing right now is exactly what this guy wants to do as well. So if you want to know what Donald Trump and a wanted terrorist from the FBI have in common, watch my next video, my part 2 video on Baruch Ben-Yosef. But before we get into that, he also is a lawyer, he being Baruch Ben-Yosef, a prominent lawyer. He defended Itamar Ben-Gvir in a case where Itamar Ben-Gvir was suing somebody for calling him a Nazi. Itamar Ben-Gvir lost the case when the court decided that his own ideologies were in fact lined up with Nazis. Therefore, he lost his case. Itamar Ben-Gvir, the same guy at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago last December, who was suing somebody for being called a Nazi, lost the case because he's a Nazi. What do you think about that? So, he also tried to do what's called a guerrilla sacrifice on the lamb, a guerrilla sacrifice of lamb on the Temple Mount. Okay, that's serious crime, serious offense. It's basically where he was trying to sneak over a goat into the Temple Mount to try to sacrifice it. It's like some crazy religious stuff, guys. It's super duper disrespectful. All right, I got a minute and a half. I'm going to try to tell you guys. So, and try to make this video for you guys, I was doing some follow-up research. Again, I've already researched this guy months ago, but I'm just trying to, follow up and make the video nice and clean, make sure no stones left unturned. So anyways, when I was thinking about the how him and Mark Kahane tried to blow up the Dome of the Rock, I researched the Dome of the Rock. I researched how many Christian temples are there in Israel, and does America have any agreement to have ownership or land ownership of? No, America is not doing anything to salvage any type of Christian church over there. So what Israel's trying to do, because what terrorists want to do, what Israel's doing right now, what Donald Trump is supporting, is trying to get rid of all, like Muslims, they have more value for Jesus than Jews do. So Muslims value buildings that even Christians do as well. But the Jews, they don't believe in the same stuff, so they want the Islam important religious buildings out, and they also want the Christian ones out too. I'm not going to be able to finish this connection, but by the way, I figured out a dot I connected with Henry Kissinger and him changing his mind. I thought the JDL influenced him, and it turned out I was right. And based on what I was just talking about, I'll get into it in a second. But anyways, stay tuned for part 2 of Baruch Ben-Yosef and more on his fuckery and what he's doing right now.